am the father, or sometimes I even say the spirit of Cinque DJahspora, because I am here on his behalf. And this is a young man that many of you may know was shot and killed by Jackson police November 6, 2014, basically just on the other side of the fence of where he lived. We gave notice of filing a suit about a year ago. We have pursued that. We are at a stage where clearly now the court is trying to say that Q does not even deserve a day in court. And that's a fundamental precept of our system of jurisprudence, that you get your day in court. We have in this case a young man who's been silenced, cannot speak for himself. So again, I invoke his spirit and say, not just his father, but his spirit. So you see Cinque standing in my person is fighting and giving voice on his behalf. I'll start where I've always started. This is what we witnessed numerous times in video and witnessed alongside the editor of the local newspaper here at the time. I think Steve was his first name, but Kaufman. We discussed this. In this video, my son is seen lying flat on the ground. His arms are outspread like this, prone, as if you've been ordered, when he is approached from a distance by an officer who then shoots him in the back. Now this is significant, and I make a point of always repeating this because it was not basically told in the media, in any of the local media. And consequently, and I'm fast tracking, as we started to go around and talk about this and discuss this, we found that the video became harder to find. Then we found that a video appeared and subsequently got entered as evidence that depicted the scene as if Cinque had been shot in the midst of a tussle with the police officers. Now this is despite the fact that we had witnesses all along who told us exactly what we saw in the initial video, my son lying flat on the ground when he was shot in the back. And then we had the evidence of the coroner's report, the EMT report, which, by the way, I had to get by going down and doing the footwork because the police basically that night of the shooting lied about it in terms of where he was shot. This was basically essentially, I would say, I'm trying to think of the word as you would say, because I'm looking at how, despite the fact we got documents to various media, repeatedly there was no mention of the fact that my son was shot in the back. And we know that that would change the whole perception in general of about how this went down. And that is one of the things when we get into the presentation in just a moment that Brother Richmond is going to share with you, is one of the things that has really affected our case. Clearly, it's clear to us anyway that the first stages of a cover-up began almost immediately after Cinque was killed by police. We have found since and can demonstrate contradictions both in police statements and the video that they have shared. We can demonstrate inconsistencies and questionable points in the video as well. But again, if you are shut down, as the court is attempting to do at this point, we don't get that day in court. Cinque doesn't get to make his case or tell his truth or expose the lie that we have all found and that we are fighting to overcome. I wanted to go ahead and set it up for Brother Richmond to give you this video presentation, and we can entertain some questions after that for any who desire. We realize that we have been victims of a deception, and what we're trying to do with this is bring some light and some truth. We know that a lot of people's perception about my son's death is based on a false representation, and that's what we're trying to counter.
And the work that this father is doing, trying to ensure that justice is rendered in some sense for his son, which you can never, never replace a life of a loved one, especially when you know within your heart they were unjustified killed. Now, you look around, you see very few people here today. And why is that so? For a number of reasons. But in this particular case, you'll be able to see why people are not here today. You'll be able to see a video from the Jackson Police Department which has been edited, which does not represent what actually took place in this process. But we was able to find footage to show something contrary to what was presented to the public. So we have that information that they wanted to be buried, but we have that type information. And what we want you to be able to do is to take a look at a perfect masterpiece of an edited version as to of the fact as to what allegedly taken place. To the point, I want you to take a look at this. There is a factor which is called inertia. If I was running and trying to stop at full speed, inertia would keep me going until I met with a similar type of force in order to stop me. Is that correct? You know a little bit about inertia. If I was running and someone said, stop, boy, I'm going to have to do a whole lot to stop. What you're going to see, you're going to see inertia was defied. You're going to see an officer that will run, stop on the dime, position himself, ready. Then what you're going to see is that something beyond that, what we got footage of, that show that he did not stop on the dime, but he engaged in a second confrontation with the individual, the accused, that were never aired by anybody. They cut it out. You'll be able to see that today. When you see this, then you understand what we're up against.
Hey, bud, I'm at Parkway in Archwood now.
Shut the fuck up! Shoot me! You got a knife, huh?
Radio, shots fired, standing EMS, radio, shots fired. Step you on, bro.
You got a knife, huh?
Oh, wow. Video, that's crazy.
Jackson residents shocked by the dashcam video showing a fight between Officer Raymond Bond and a suspect he was trying to talk to, 20-year-old Cinque Jaspora.
Oh, wow. Video, that's crazy.
Jackson residents shocked by the dashcam video showing a fight between Officer Raymond Bond and a suspect he was trying to talk to, 20-year-old Cinque Jaspora.
Oh, wow. Video, that's crazy.
Jackson residents shocked by the dashcam video showing a fight between Officer Raymond Bond and a suspect he was trying to talk to, 20-year-old Cinque Jaspora.
Oh, wow. Video, that's crazy.
Jackson residents shocked by the dashcam video showing a fight between Officer Raymond Bond and a suspect he was trying to talk to, 20-year-old Cinque Jaspora.
Oh, wow. Video, that's crazy.
Jackson residents shocked by the dashcam video showing a fight between Officer Raymond Bond and a suspect he was trying to talk to, 20-year-old Cinque Jaspora.
On the dash cam video, you have a upper shot.
Oh, wow. Video, that's crazy.
Jackson residents shocked by the dashcam video showing a fight between Officer Raymond Bond and a suspect he was trying to talk to, 20-year-old Cinque Jaspora.
You should notice
Oh,
over
wow.
here.
Video, that's crazy.
Jackson residents shocked by the dashcam video showing a fight between Officer Raymond Bond and a suspect he was trying to talk to, 20-year-old Cinque Jaspora.
Oh, wow. Video, that's crazy.
Jackson residents shocked by the dashcam video showing a fight between Officer Raymond Bond and a suspect he was trying to talk to, 20-year-old Cinque Jaspora.
Confrontation taking place
Oh,
over
wow.
there.
Video, that's crazy.
Jackson residents
It went on just like they said it did, and what they wanted to leave. Then everybody reviewed that and said the officer was justified in what he did in that particular process, because Q proposed a threat to him in that process, and in the continuation of his action, he was justified in using that weapon. That's what many people look and say, you don't have a case. So what they have done, they painted that picture by cutting out that footage. And what it boils down to, when you take a real look at it, you can see the reality of it. Now, the center have a very difficult job, because first of all, the whole public had been led to believe this is the way it had taken place. Not only the public, the lawyers, the judges, and everybody, and then they say, well, we're not going to let this evidence in. We're not going to let you come in there and talk about this video. We're not going to let you do that. So that's what happened. Now, the thing about it is this. Videos, they can be edited. And this one has been edited. And that's the reality of it. The bottom line is, though, they did not get everything. They tried to. They did not clean up everything because they released some of the footage to certain news organizations. The Jackson Sun has footage of it. As a matter of fact, one of the person at the Jackson Sun saw the footage. And they talked, the father and them talked about it in that process there. But the footage, and we don't know where it's at now. What happened to it? That particular, more detailed information. We don't have that particular footage that you're talking about there, young man. We don't have that particular footage.
The dash, it was showing at first, but now, in the back of the patrol car, all of them had the dash on. When they were fighting and stuff, you could see it real good. And the car behind, the one they showed on TV with video, you could see that on TV, the car in front of it. But the one right here with the dash on it, you could see the video real good. They took it off.
Yeah. And that's what's going on.
Brother Richmond,
Yeah.
can I just, I
Sure,
just want to
sure.
just emphasize that point that he was making about the question of his video. Because see, here's the thing. See, we find ourselves doing all this analysis and looking at that, but it's still only on a segment in which, like I said, they have contrived it to look like it happened in the midst of a struggle. And the video that I'm talking about, the video that I sat down and talked with the editor of the Jackson Sun about, and he had offered at that time, well, we'll get the raw video, I'll be glad to sit down and analyze it frame by frame. That never happened. But we discussed the video where my son is lying face down on the ground, which you never see in there. Face down on the ground, his arms outstretched as if, when police order you, outstretch your arm. That's when he is approached and shot in the back. Now that is video that I had to watch several times over. Brother here actually was next to me at some point when I was watching it, as with the disinterest, as much as I could, as a father watching my son being murdered. So this is real. And this is something that we had a real discussion about with the real editor of a real local newspaper, for what that's worth. However, that same local newspaper then posts what we see now, and yet there's never a question raised in the media, let alone that paper, about two different ends in two different outcomes in two different pieces of video. Now, if that's not news, what is? But that was never questioned anywhere in this media. What we got was the repression, the cover-up, and like I said, the media generally would not even acknowledge that my son had been shot in the back. You look back, don't take my word for it, look back at most of the broadcasts and see when that is mentioned. It's not. We gave them the evidence. We had the EMT report. We had the coroner's report that shows that also in that video, you'd be hard-pressed to get the angle you got that the coroner's report shows, given what was going on, given the positions you see in that video. Again, all of this is inconsistent. We also have inconsistent statements by the officers themselves, but we were not allowed to enter that in court as evidence. So we're talking about, we're in a position of having to talk about some things that clearly they have made difficult for anybody to see or find now. But again, what we're doing, we're pointing out even the inconsistencies and even what they have in this, fiction that they have presented to the public.
The thing is,
I got a question.
yes.
I got a question. Are you in dispute about anything that's on this video that we just saw?
So
I was asking the father here, is he in dispute with anything that we saw on this video?
Yeah, I'm in dispute, and I've been asked that question. Is kind of I think people are kind of targeting a certain something when they ask that. I'm in dispute because once you alter it, essentially you have altered the truth. Period. So I question everything. And as a matter of fact, from what I do recall, and I watched that original video, like I said, several times. Even the actions in there, I see something. I see a contradiction with what I saw in the first video. Just even the action with Cinque appearing to throw what was before kind of more like a sideward movement, and then it kind of comes out of his hands more of a sideward way. And I see now something with an overhand. I mean, that's the kind of stuff, if you pick up on that. I mean, like I said, I watched this video numerous times. There are a number of things in there. And also, look, the reason I recognize that it was an edited video right away, I'm a videographer. Not a professional, but I've done it for a while. And it didn't take professional eyes to see, no, this is edited. But yeah, I see things in those actions that are inconsistent, that I question. And as far as I'm concerned, once you alter it, you have altered the truth, and that's what they have done. So I don't concede anything. You know what I'm saying? And not to say that, I might not. But for the sake of that being a reality, no, I can't concede anything knowing that it has been changed and altered.
What other video did you see?
What do you mean, what other video?
You said you saw a video that seemed that it was like side motion.
What? That was a part of the original one where I said Q is on the ground, prone, flat, arms out.
Who allowed you to see that?
I saw it on the internet.
It was on the internet.
It was online. It was posted online.
They took it off.
Yeah, but see, and see now, this man just asked a question that also speaks to something else. It's pretty clear that even in the period when they were denying us, the family, to see anything, and they were saying, well, that's going to be released until, you know, the investigation's over. Video was being released. I saw no less than 3 different videos from the time I saw the original, where you see, looks like a different scenario is kind of being edited. And there was a white officer on the scene in one of those. Now he seems to disappear in everything else. But I watched it. He comes into the scene. But this is a video. The mix and the editing is clearly like, you know, this is edited, because it has kind of like a little swirly effect. Now I watched all these on the internet. In some cases, people would bring them to my attention. You know, hey, you know, you seen this, you know. But that's where I saw just the editing process. It's almost as if it was just like a work in progress. And then you end up with this. And this is pretty much what they entered into evidence, along with, I guess, Bond's statement saying that, you know, this is, you know, such and such. And then for those who came in late, I also point out the DA, you know, in his hurry not to press any charges, never talked to these witnesses, even though we made it public. See, we learned about the account from witnesses who came forward to us. We didn't see that video until months after the witnesses came forth. But that video was exactly what those witnesses said. You know, Q was down, he was shot in the back, and it wasn't Bond who fired the shot. Now, the witnesses were unequivocal about that. Now, so why would they do that? Now think about just something that just happened recently. South Carolina. The shooting in South Carolina. They've given you the name and an image of a black cop, but at the same time you have witnesses out there describing a white, bald officer in a red shirt. But, you know.
So this is what we're up against, you know, in this process here. So this father been out there on the front line fighting for his son on the defense from the onset, because of the fact the information is controlled by an entity that we supposed to trust, because they're part of the justice system. And so we're supposed to trust what they present to us as fact. And so the magistrate said, you know, basically, he took that information from them as fact, as an unedited piece of information, factual, nothing happened, nothing been changed in that process there, and anyone should see that and think that is fact. Then you say, well, what ground do you have to stand on? But the reality of it all, there's information that surely said this is not factual. Certain parts of it is, but when you get to the point of editing anything, deleting anything out of it, it's then become non-factual. And this is where we are now. And there is some recourses to be taken. And I'm going to release the floor back to the senator. And he's going to explain as to what happened next.
The family is certainly planning to appeal. The judge is pending dismissal of our case, as well as some other action, which we can talk about a little bit later.